Thank you for watching. My name is Glenn Morgan, and this is We the Govern. Breaking news, they're finally doing something to clean up the homeless camps in the city of Olympia. But is it enough? All right, we're back to Washington State Capitol, the City of Olympia today. I know we've done a number of videos about this place in the past, and the reason why we're back there is that the question has come up, are they really cleaning up the homeless camps in Olympia, which has been on the news recently? Now, the reason why this kind of matters is that we have featured in previous videos and documented the proliferation of just absurd and massive sprawling, half-mile long homeless camps that have occurred right in downtown Olympia, right across the pond, this Capitol Lake, right across Capitol Lake from the main Capitol and the governor's mansion, and a place where anybody who wants to drive by or enjoy the waterfront or the lakefront in downtown Olympia, you can't possibly miss it. So we had done some drone videos a couple months ago just showing how bad this place has become. And it's not just that you have a bunch of homeless and drug addicts that are all living together next to this pond. It's that they've really turned it into a public landfill, a toxic waste landfill. According to news reports, they described it as tents swimming in garbage. And finally, it appears that some effort, after 18 months or so in the city of Olympia, it looks like there's some effort to come in and actually improve this place and actually reduce the massive waste and toxic landfill that has been growing there by the lake. So in Olympia, this has been big news. You saw Cairo and Como News do some special reports on it. You saw the Olympian write some articles about it. It's actually made national news, the fact that the city of Olympia finally got off and it's actually producing some value for the residents who live there. And so this is kind of exciting. It's big news. And I appreciate in particular the fact that Como News featured this guy, this critter, who was prominently featured in their news report just from a few days ago. Because the area had become a hazard even for the rats who live there. And of course, rats had proliferated throughout these homeless camps and the drug addict camps that are down there. And just one of my gut reactions is that because the toxic waste that was being dumped there was so bad, the rats were having a hard time with the habitat, and the city council needed to step in and actually clean it up. But the question remains, are they really cleaning this up? Because we've heard this story before. Well, as it turns out, no, not really. It's really just temporary. Just kidding. It's sort of a cleanup, but it's not a total cleanup of the landfill by the lake. And part of the reason, too, of course, it had kind of generated some angst locally. People were starting to call it Camp Inslee, named after Governor Jay Inslee. Perhaps there was some motivation to clean it up then. But the reality is all they're doing is just removing the obvious mountain of toxic waste and garbage that's been piled all around these tents. The tents, the tarps, the people who live there, they get to stay. Which leads to the next question is, well, they're staying there, and they are the ones who are responsible for piling up massive mountains of garbage, despite the fact that the city had delivered actual dumpsters there for them to put garbage in. But rather than use the dumpsters, they were just piling up garbage into big mountainous piles. Will that behavior change? Now, that's a trick question, because it won't change. It hasn't changed in any of the camps in Olympia or Portland or Seattle or anywhere else that they've proliferated. Garbage and massive mountains of garbage come with the territory and the behavior that leads to people living in those camps in the first place. And unfortunately, this is just a temporary fix for now if they're not going to actually change the situation for the people who actually live there. But why is the city of Olympia finally doing this now? Now, the answer to that question, that isn't a trick question. The answer is obvious. The reason why they're doing it now is because this is an election year for the city council. Local elections tend to run in off years. This is 2021, and you're going to have a bunch of city council members that are up for election. And even though they haven't done anything to make this problem go away in the city, and they've only done everything they can to make it worse, recruit more drug addicts and homeless people to live and proliferate in the city, finally, they're going to do a little bit of cleanup, a little bit of surface level fixing so that hopefully it's harder to use that against them in the upcoming election. And this is understandable. If you look at the city council, you got about 7 people on that city council. 5 of them are up for election. Now, normally there'd only be 4. I point out the 4 that are here. You can see in the this little posting that had been on Facebook, the incumbents that are running for office, including Renata Rollins, who has actually announced that she will not return and will not run again for office. We had featured her in our Weirdos and Heroes in local government video series recently, and she's decided that she's not going to run. But the other incumbents are very proud of the mess that they've made of the city of Olympia, and they're planning to run again to demonstrate that they can do more of that. Now, the one city council member who really doesn't deserve to have this homeless camp mess hung around her political future at this point in time is the recently appointed Yen Hyun, who was appointed because the former city councilwoman, Jessica Bateman, had actually won election to go to the state legislature. And so Yen was appointed to fill that spot. She's only been in office for a few months. And so under state law, she has to run again after the appointment, and that is this November, so with a primary in August. And so really what we're looking at is 5 open seats on this council, or 5 seats that are going to be up for being challenged by other people who want to maybe clean up the city. Yen being the only one who hasn't done anything to, or really can't be said that she caused much of this problem. But 3 of these incumbents clearly are, they own this, and this is part of their political resume at this point in time. But, and when we look at the city of Olympia, even these partial cleanups are welcome. The city has become a dumping ground throughout all the green spaces, throughout downtown, throughout every place that you can pitch a tent or a tarp or take a pile of garbage and throw a needle. And so even these partial cleanups are clearly welcome in Olympia today, and we need to do more of them. Although, one of the questions that people are asking is, do we always have to wait for an election year before we can get anybody on the city council to actually make any kind of an impact or difference other than the bad decisions that they've been making in the past? And also, another question that just keeps coming up is, can't they actually look for some kind of more permanent solution? Like perhaps, as we've suggested in the past, converting Evergreen State College nearby into a homeless drug rehab facility. The college is a failure. It's been declining in student enrollment. In fact, every measurement, it's a failure, other than wasting tax dollars. And the city should be pushing to doing something like converting that campus into actually a drug rehab and homeless camp facility. It would be a substantial improvement, not just for the campus and the people who are there, but also for the city, so that we would actually have some kind of a solution in that area for the problem that's proliferating. Because the other thing to look at is, even though they're also cleaning up some of these other high-profile camps that are on areas where people drive by, like the Wheeler camp and these other camps that we featured before, when you look at Percival Creek, which is just around the corner, it's kind of hidden in the woods. This is a salmon creek. It's filled with garbage and people living along that creek as well. Why not try to clean up Percival Creek? Because this is what it looks like today. And part of the answer to that is that why bother? Because nobody's going to look at it. It's hard to get down there. And really, the cleanup isn't the priority. The priority is to eliminate things that people can use in some kind of future political campaign against the incumbents. Most people are predicting that after the election, assuming the incumbents stay in, or the people who believe the same thing they do, everything goes back to normal. And this is, of course, a problem for the people who live here. Perhaps it isn't a problem for the other residents of Olympia who are proliferating just as badly as the politicians. Maybe the rats are very happy. I'm sure that they would thank the council to give them more habitat. Maybe a little less toxicity would be good. But in general, the problem is likely to revert back to the same old situation once the election is over. So this is a real issue that we're going to have to look at, because ultimately it is up to you. When I say you, I mean the people who live in the city of Olympia, the people who can vote. It's up to them to recruit better candidates, people who are sort of sane, to run for office. It doesn't take a genius to realize the city of Olympia is on a steep decline. It doesn't take a math whiz to realize that all they do is get more taxpayer dollars in, and they squander most of them on the way out. We need people to get into these local offices, these local positions, and stop virtue signaling and start working. And this is as true in Washington, D.C. as it is in the city of Olympia. But we need people who aren't going to spend their time appealing to the wokest of the woke at Evergreen State College, and actually start appealing to the people who are paying the taxes and trying to live in the city of Olympia. Start working and making something happen. A big problem in Olympia and elsewhere, of course, is that these incumbents and these bureaucrats and elected officials need to stop giving kickbacks to their friends and the grant grifters who proliferate and basically focus on ensuring that problems never get solved. All they do is drain taxpayer dollars. Let's start getting people in who refuse to go down that typical path and the typical behavior of elected officials, and start finding solutions, not defaulting to the past failures that seem to be repeated time and time again. Of course, part of the problem is here, not solving the problem seems to be one of the priorities, and it certainly has been in the city of Olympia. So we really want to focus on getting just some kind of sane people there. Otherwise, this video from a few months ago of this homeless camp that has been just proliferating, where the drug addicts are living, the garbage is piling up. This is just going to become a new video when in a few more months after the election and it starts filling up with landfill garbage again and the place starts to get worse, we're going to have to do another story about how the city of Olympia is just continuing to do the same thing over and over again. It's ultimately up to the people who are going to be running for office and getting good people into office who don't want to go down the exact same path that this council has gone down for many, many years now. It is time for change, and cleaning up toxic landfills along the lake is probably not a bad place to start, and not creating the same policies that encourage more of this behavior is going to be a priority that should be implemented in any new council after this next election. Thank you for watching. If you want to learn more, go to wethegovern.com. You can also read in the video description below if you want to see some of the news links or some of the background stories on what we covered in today's video. I also want to encourage you to subscribe, share with others, and feel free to email this video. And also make comments below. If you think I've missed something, I always read the comments. I try to get back to as many of them as I possibly can. And remember, just like in the city of Olympia, the future belongs to those who show up.